watched this Hickok video, and I just got to talk about this, about the Second Amendment, okay, and the reason for the Second Amendment. And he makes some good points, and I like Hickok. I've been watching his videos for years. But you know, he's talking about the idea of the Second Amendment. He's got some good principles going, then he delves into how he likes to impede traffic by stopping at intersections where there's no stop sign and shit like that, and he just kind of got off track, in my opinion. So it's really simple, though. It really don't have to be there's really not a lot to talk about. It doesn't have to really be a long video. It's the Second Amendment is obviously there because of government. It never had anything to do with hunting or self-defense, because that's how it's always framed today. It's always, it's always about, the ability. So there are a lot of cars there. A lot of people like to frame it as the ability to defend yourself, which that's just an added bonus. And the other thing that I think needs to be mentioned is that using any kind of weapon, defending yourself in any way, that all kind of falls under the Second Amendment umbrella. But the government has found a way to end around that, because most of the time when you defend yourself, it's not going to be cheap. Somebody comes at you, they clearly attack you, there's a camera showing that they attacked you, they come at you with a pistol, say they're going to rob you, and you have the ability to get yours out and shoot them first. It's on HD camera, there's a witness. It doesn't matter. Are you aware of this? That doesn't matter? That it will completely matter what jurisdiction you're in, and every jurisdiction has somebody who has the position. Every jurisdiction, every shift has somebody in the department who has the position of analyzing shootings, including defensive shootings. And if they decide that they want to refer you to the DA for charging, they're going to refer you to the DA. And when you get these people who are activists, they're always going to refer you. When you get people who are scared of, the family of the victim, even when they don't have family, when you get those people who are sitting in that position of authority, they're always going to have you arrested and have it referred to the DA. A lot of times the DA will toss it out, sometimes without any more work on your part. They'll just say, yeah, this is pretty clear cut. But if there's any gray area, and I'm telling you, even with an HD video and witnesses confirming what happened, this can still happen, and they can still consider that a gray area, right? Especially depending, again, on where you live. You got to go through the whole thing, and you got to pay a lot of money for a defense attorney, and you're never going to get that money back. So, essentially, they've taken away the ability for people to effectively defend themselves, but that was never what it was about anyways. It was supposed to keep the government in line. It was supposed, he talked a bit about how it's supposed to keep other governments in line, and he did make a very good point about we can't measure things that we don't know. So we don't know how many times other countries or groups might have tried to infiltrate the United States and take land if they weren't afraid of the fact that a lot of people were armed. That's an extremely valid point. But sorry, you've been in traffic. But what it's really meant to do is to keep our government from becoming tyrannical. However, they found a way to get around that. So they found a way to get around allowing you to use a weapon for self-defense. It's not 100% yet, but it's getting there. As more and more jurisdictions do this, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather put it on the person who did this to defend themselves than put the burden on the state as it's supposed to be. And it's the same thing for government. People are supposed to have arms, and arms means more than just a handgun or a rifle, but whatever. People are supposed to have arms to keep the government in check. And the way that they've gotten around that is they've created laws about things that you can and can't say, right? And the example that I just fucking hate. Okay, I used to think that this made sense, but I don't anymore. I don't at all. And I'll tell you what. Is a yelling fire in a crowded theater. People like to use that as an example. Why would that be illegal? That still falls under the umbrella of freedom of speech. Now, if you'd have tried something like that, say 100 years ago, falsely yelling fire when there's no fire, trying to get people to panic to see if you can cause a stampede, that kind of thing, First of all, it might not have been as successful 100 years ago because we were a different country and people were probably a little bit more logical thinking, and they would have gotten out of there in an orderly fashion instead of everybody being myopic and trying to climb over every person next to them to get out the door. But let's say that aside, what would they have thought of that? Well, what they probably would have done if somebody did that intentionally, if somebody just trying to be a fucking dick, is probably just would have given them a beating. They might have asked him, like, hey, buddy, what's the idea? And then once they got past that, they probably would have just given the guy a beating. And that's just kind of how it is. So when you say something irresponsible, intentionally, or the other one they like to use is the call to violence. Calls to violence aren't legal. Why? Why not? If I tell this person, go hurt that person, or if somebody tells me, hey, you go hurt this person, it's still on the person that does it. It's not on the person that says it. You can't put the blame on them. They didn't put a gun to the guy's head and say, you better kill this guy or I'm going to kill you. Those are ridiculous examples. And, you know, the fact that the Supreme Court has upheld some kind of speech like that is fucking crazy and shows that they are bought and paid for, which you probably already knew anyways. So politicians have enjoyed this kind of rhetoric, though, because they get to expand that to themselves. They have not yet come up with a law directly saying you can't threaten a politician or say, you know, you're a piece of shit or you're a liar. They haven't yet done that, but they certainly have curbed people's ability to be angry and to organize, including if their anger says something like, we should fucking get this guy, etc. Whether or not that means actually do something violent or that just means surround them and yell at them still really is a gray area. But that is kind of the idea of the Second Amendment. It goes together with the First. That's kind of the idea, though, is that you're supposed to be able to have the ability to keep these people in line, because a healthy dose of fear and humility helps. Now, there's always going to be a crazy person that is going to take a shot. There's always going to be a crazy person who's going to take anything to an extreme. And I've said this so many times, but one more, I guess. Are you going to punish the rest of the population for the actions of a couple people? I mean, you can, but it's fucking stupid. It's stupid and it's not fair. And all of these people who keep touting safety's our number one priority. Since when? Since when is safety our number one priority? I don't care if it's at a concert or at a political rally or driving down the street. When safety becomes the priority over everything else, including our rights, then you have done actually exactly what it was Benjamin Franklin that said, those who would sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither, right? Fucking A, 100%. So the Second Amendment is there to keep our government from being tyrannical. So what happened, though? Another thing that I think Hickok missed, or maybe he didn't want to get into, but what happened, though, is that other countries figured we can't invade the United States on land because it's just too arduous of a task. There's too many people, they're too spread out, and too many of them will have guns. Even the ones you don't expect to have guns will have guns, or people will have two guns and will give one to their neighbor, etc. And he used the example of the Japanese emperor that said there's a gun behind every blade of grass, which is true, which is a good analogy. I mean, it actually happened, but also to use it as an analogy is good. The thing is that these countries and these enemies and these groups, realizing they could not win a simple on-the-ground land assault at any point in the last 75 years, right, maybe more, they've just gone another route and they have infiltrated our government and our institutions because we did not make strong enough nationalist laws to protect our country. And we did not have strong enough immigration. Strong enough immigration means that you have to vet people that want to live there. For example, right now in Russia, and I don't give a shit about Russia. I don't want to move to Russia. I'm just telling you as an example. Putin put this thing out, which was probably more for media than anything else, saying anybody who wants to emigrate here can. But the actual process of emigrating there, you have to go there and get a work visa. And then you have to wait several months before you can start working. You're only allowed to bring so much money, so you can't just bring millions of dollars. This is what I've heard. I don't know about the money thing for sure. What I heard is you're allowed to bring a certain amount, so you have to bring enough essentially to be able to live off of for up to 6 months while you wait for your work visa, and then you have to find a job. And then it is a 3-year vetting process, including language, but also culture, politics, other stuff. You have to be able to pass these tests. So we used to have more stringent tests like this in the U.S. that it was required, that if people couldn't understand the political system, they couldn't live here. But we certainly didn't have a 3-year probationary period. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about when I say it has to be good immigration. Other than that, though, why would we let people just move here? And why would we let people who do not live in this country buy land here? And why would we let people who do not live in this country own a business here? Now, if you have a successful business in another place in the world and you want to put a satellite here, that would be different, but you would still need government approval, and you would still have to hire, for example, American employees. You want to set up, fine, you have your people go train, and then you hire people in the country. You don't just bring in a bunch of labor. But we've allowed all that kind of stuff. We've also allowed a lot of absentee landlordism on a city level and on a national level. And that shit's crazy. And between that and these people being able to get into power, these radicals and these people that hate America and what it's about being able to get into power, they've essentially created an end around for the Second Amendment. So we still have the First and Second Amendment, and they are just quickly becoming less and less effective or practical. And you got to understand, no matter what anybody fearmongers and tries to tell you about, we're going to get invaded, and we're going to have this problem, it's never going to happen like that. They're never going to make it that easy because of the guns. They'll never make it that fucking easy. They won't even send the military into our country. They just won't. It'll be little things. It'll be computer hacks that fuck with things. It'll be infiltration of government. It'll be infiltration of education. It'll be infiltration of media and entertainment. That is how they have been doing it for decades now. So just remember, though, when somebody starts to talk stupid about the Second Amendment and talk about, what do you need of this for? What the fuck don't I need that for? Our enemies are vast, and they have excellent weapons, better than we have, better than any normal person can afford. Because no matter how freely you interpret the Second Amendment, well, the Second Amendment means you can have an F-14 fighter jet? Sure it does. Who the fuck can afford that? And who can fly it? Like, it still means you should be able to have it, though. Oh, should people be able to have fucking RPGs and missiles? Sure. Normal people don't fucking buy that stuff. Normal people never be able to afford to use it. People without training would never know how to fucking use it. So that's a moot argument. Point is, though, that they've gotten around these. But while they continue to get around them, they keep using these same tired arguments, man. And I can't stand it when people tiptoe around this shit and go, oh, well, you're right. Maybe you don't need a 3-shot burst trigger. Maybe you don't need a reset trigger. Maybe you don't need a full auto. Maybe we don't need rifles. Fuck off. Fuck off already. It is, crazy people are always going to find ways to hurt people. It has nothing to do with defense. It has nothing to do with hunting. It has everything to do with tyranny, and the tyranny is already here. Wake up.